Very good. Well, hey, we will. Okay, well, I guess that's our
Yes.
cue. Recording in progress. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This meeting of the IWMA Executive Committee, first meeting of 2022. And so let's begin with the roll call.
Mr. Enns,
Here.
Ms. Marks,
Here.
and Mr. Bourbeau.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next is the
All
Pledge of
present.
Allegiance. And since I'm not standing near one, does somebody else want to take the lead there? Robert?
Oh, sure, I'll do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So then we will see if we have any public comment from items not on the agenda.
At this time, if a member of the public wishes to make a comment, you may press the raise hand button found at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on the phone, you may press star 9. I see nobody for public comment.
You're breaking up, and I'm wondering, is that just happening to me or is that happening to others?
Not to me, I'm good.
Not to me either.
Okay, then I'm afraid I might have a unstable connection, as they say. I was able to gather that we had no public comment though, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda. We have our consent calendar. First, let's see if we have any public comment on items on the consent calendar.
Yeah, at this time, if you wish to make public comment, you may press the raise hand button found at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on the phone, you may press star 9. I have nobody for public comment.
All right, thank you. And this consent agenda just consists of the draft minutes of our last two executive committee meetings, one regular, one special. I was curious, I do not see on here, or I don't think I saw on the regular agenda, the minutes from the full board meeting of December 8th. Will those be on the, well, no, there they are. They're on the full board meeting agenda. Never mind. So, okay. So with that being said, do I have a motion to, or any board discussion or a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can you please read the roll?
Mr. Enns,
Yes.
Ms. Marks,
Yes.
and Mr. Bourbeau. Charles, I think you were frozen.
Yeah, yes.
Perfect. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, then we will go ahead and move on to our regular agenda discussion of the status. Well, I think we were going to drop that off. But let's go ahead and have our discussion of the status and impact of the county's withdrawal. Or no, or am I looking at minutes? Never mind.
Yeah.
I believe
Hold
the
on,
next
hold on.
item is 7.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I scrolled through to the wrong thing here. So, okay. So let's talk about the draft IWMA board meeting agenda for next week on January 12th. And I believe we also do have Pavo Ogren in attendance on this, who is currently our consultant on issues dealing with particularly focused on issues dealing with outside agencies. So we have the agenda for next week. I was wondering, Jeff, about changing the order of the agenda items so that we would discuss the possible appointment of Mr. Ogren as interim executive director first. And I'm wondering, partly I'm wondering that in this context of if the board approves that appointment, whether or not Mr. Ogren could step into that role immediately for the remainder of the meeting. Is that?
Thank you, President Barbeau. That would make sense. And then Mr. Ogren would be able to provide comment in regards to the budget analysis. So yes, his appointment would be effective immediately.
Okay, would we need to take a short break or something to like swear him in or something?
No, we could just do it as part of the agenda item.
Right, but I mean, we
Move in a minute.
include as the agenda item that if the board approves the appointment, there would be a oath taking or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
We do it right away.
Yeah, just do it. I want to just let you know that I talked to city staff this morning, and there's some confusion on their part about, and probably the other agencies are also wondering, what is Pavo's present status? Since there was nothing to report
Well,
out.
I mean,
So,
well, I
Yeah.
think we not, we did take a public action to engage Pavo as consultant, right? And we defined what that role was, I thought.
Yes.
Jeff, is that,
Yes, that's correct. And the consulting agreement with the scope of work is available for the public and city managers.
okay, so yeah, they wanted to, the staff wanted me
we
to
took a
explain a little bit, and I did what I could without violating the closed session. So it would be good, perhaps, if someone, either Patty or Mr. Minnery could just shoot an email to the other board members, and the other entities, and just let them know what the current status of Pavo's relationship with the IWMA is. In case
course.
something comes up between now and January 12th. And they might want to talk with him.
I'll coordinate with Patty on that.
okay?
Thank
And
you.
Jan, Pavo, as in his role as the consultant on the items that we identified in the consulting contract, is reaching out to individual city managers, not necessarily all of them, but is reaching out to individuals. So
Yeah,
some of them, I mean, he can address that, whether he's already had some discussions with some of them. And he will be in attendance, I believe, at the meeting tomorrow, the virtual meeting tomorrow that we have with the HF&H, going over their rate study report with the city managers and general managers.
okay. I just
But
think
yeah.
it would be appropriate if if everybody got the word from us about what has been done. Rather than having Pavo just show up,
No, I understand. And perhaps in retrospect, after our meeting, when we took the public action, that probably would have been the best time for us to send out some sort of message to the relevant city and general managers that they might be hearing from Pavo in this capacity, as a consultant. But better late than never. So yeah, if we could send something out, Jeff, that would be good.
Of course.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, so on the next week's full board meeting agenda, we have minutes, and then and of course ratifying the resolution so that we can continue to meet by Zoom. But then we're talking about rearranging items 11 and 12 to put Pavo's appointment first. We also have then number 11 which would now be number 12, to talk about the HF&H proposal. The HF&H prepared a draft proposal in response to what we did at our last board meeting, where the board discussed the city's request in their resolution for an outside third-party review of operations. And HF&H provided that. And Patty, that got out to all the executive committee members, right? I don't know, didn't get out to all the board members yet. Is that correct?
I think she may have just emailed us.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
I was frankly, a little taken aback by the price of that, and a little concerned about the price and maybe the scope being a little large. But I think that's something we can discuss with the full board next week, as to, because $80,000 is what they're looking at, and that is a lot. To me, that's a lot of money for this purpose. I don't know if you have any comments on that or any particular recommendations we would want to make to the full board as an executive committee.
So it's actually, it looks like to me, it's another $18,800 that would have to be added to the present budget.
Right, but I mean, yeah, that is substantial cost. And I also, in a sense, look at some of the things that are included in there, or some of the things that we would expect Pavo to do if the board, hires him as the interim executive director. And so I'm a little concerned about redundant costs there. But I mean, those are things that we can discuss at next week with the full board. I just want to see if executive committee has any particular feeling about it before we go into the full board meeting. Robert?
Charles, is this document that Patty just sent us, that's 88,800 is the total?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. It's a
Okay.
HF&H something or other on there.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to back you up on your statement about Pavo being able to do a lot of this. Accounting is his background. And maybe we should have some feedback from Pavo regarding, I'd like to get his feeling on this before we, as a board, decide.
Right. I think we've got to have it on the board agenda though, because we said at the last meeting, we would, ask HF&H for the proposal and we'd bring it back. But I think it would be very important to have Pavo's take and read on this.
I'd love to see
Right,
that.
well, he'll have access to these documents when we put the full agenda out. And, so we can just mention it to him that, hey, Pablo, we really need your advice on what could be redundant here.
Right. I sent it to him, so he has.
Oh, he already has it, okay.
I
good.
just sent it to him this morning. He forwarded it to him. He's got, so he's had it for about an hour.
That's
so.
more than I did.
Right.
Okay.
So, so anyway, yeah, I think it'll be good to get his feedback and input on that, but we will, we do need to have it on the agenda. I don't think we can delay having it on the full board agenda.
Okay,
I can provide a little bit of feedback at this point if you would want me to.
Sure.
And so my thoughts is that, this proposal is based on the assumption that I'm not working with IWMA as the interim executive director. And what I think might be beneficial is for me to see if HF&F can provide an optional proposal. And I talk to them about, what I can do and then what they would do. And that way, hopefully at next week's board meeting, you would actually have two different proposals. The one that they've already prepared that assumes that I'm not involved. And then the second proposal that would identify what support that they are providing if I am hired as the interim executive director. I haven't talked to Rob Hilton about that yet, and today is the day that they're taking their New Year's holiday. But when I looked at the scope of work that they have provided, it would seem to me that there's a reasonable possibility that they can provide us a second proposal as well, so that the board of directors as a whole next week can, really consider both.
Excellent. Yeah. When I talked with Pablo briefly, he was kind of thinking some of that through, and I think that's an excellent. I think that's an excellent idea.
Yes,
What do you two think of that?
you have my full support on that idea.
Me too. So,
Sounds good. So, Pablo, in your current role as consultant, this is a relevant thing to discuss. And like I said, we're discussing it in the context of if the board with HF&H, in the context is if the board approves your appointment as interim executive director, then it would be appropriate for them to have a revised scope available for our consideration. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I can work with Patty on coordinating that with HF&F as well.
Okay. And then speaking of, do we have any further discussion on that item? Okay. Speaking of HF&H, tomorrow we have a meeting with HF&H. Well, HF&H has a meeting with city managers and general manager, and I will intend to listen in like I did last time. And Pavel would be listening in as our consultant, and Patty would be there, and I assume Barbara, that we're going to talk about their revised rate study. And the revised rate study raises some concerns as to the dollar amount, and then have some open questions just regarding some of the specifics of the report. But I'm wondering, we should have that as an agenda item on next week's board meeting, to at least receive and discuss the HF&H revised report. Because I think
I
it's,
agree. I think that would make, I'm very curious about it myself, and I'm sure the rest of the board members are as well. So I think that makes sense.
Jan, have you
And
seen it? Because I get confused as to, who got sent what sometimes. Have you seen the revised report?
No,
Okay, I thought we sent that out to Patty. I'm forgetting, but I thought we sent that out to all of the board members, and the NHF&H sent it out to the city managers and general managers for their review. Well, I know they sent it out to them for their review prior to tomorrow's meeting. Did it
Well,
go to the board members?
yeah, I don't know if someone could send it again. I got a little distracted over Christmas, I have to admit. So I may
Sure,
have missed
no,
it.
I understand. And sometimes you get something, you open it, and then I'll read it
No, we don't do that.
later, and then there it is, it's in the pile. And so, but yeah, Patty, could you resend that to Jan in particular, but double
Yes, I
check that it
will.
was sent to all the board members, especially since it's gone out, outside the IWMA to city and general managers. So, because when I saw it, I definitely had some concerns about the rate and some of the details of how it was arrived at. So, so that will be an interesting meeting tomorrow, though, and then I think we need to add it as an agenda item on next week's full board meeting. As long as
I'm not sure I know how to listen into that meeting. So if someone could send the link as well, it'd be great.
that would be good. Patty, could you do that?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Thank
and then
you.
Jan, since that'll make two of us executive committee members at least on there. Board members are, I'd mentioned in the past, they're welcome to listen in, but we should avoid great commentary if there's a
Right.
large number of us there.
Right. No, we'd just be and part of the audience, not a panelist. That'd be
Right,
fine.
and for me, one of the reasons I want to listen into a meeting like that is I want to get a feel for the interplay and the concerns of the city and general managers, and the explanations that are given to them by HF&H. So,
Right.
okay, so we'll add that as item 13 on next week's agenda. Do we have any other things that we want to discuss regarding those items that would be on next week's regular agenda?
I do have a question, Charles. It was my understanding from listening to Pavo, we were also considering adding an additional item as the proposal to support IWMA review and budget analysis with him taking on part of the roles. Is that correct? So we would actually have 2 additional regular agenda items.
I'm sorry, say again, it broke up on me.
That's okay. So I thought it was my understanding that we were going to add an additional item to review and discuss the budget analysis, but with Pavo taking on part of those responsibilities. So we would actually have 2 different items from to discuss
Oh.
HFNH.
No,
correct?
it would be a singular
Mhm.
item, but there would potentially be 2 proposals.
Got it.
So it'd be
Okay,
a singular agenda item, but there would be potentially 2 proposals from HFNH to consider, but a
perfect.
single agenda item.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that would be item 12 now, because item
Correct.
11 would be the appointment of an interim executive director.
And then item 13 would be to receive and discuss the HFNH revised rate study.
Correct.
Perfect, thank you.
I'd like to add a report from Patty at the beginning of the meeting, like we usually have.
Yeah, I agree, Patty. I'd like to, indicate that even if we don't have anything definitive to discuss, it's good to have that oral report listed on the agenda.
Yeah.
Actually, just, any particular update, and that would be good. If you wanted, it might be awkward in terms of timing if the board appoints Pavo, whether or not we'd want to get an oral report from him at all as well. But he could discuss anything he wanted to discuss as a consequence of the appointment item, I think. So yeah, if you could put an oral report on there like
No,
you
I'm
normally do.
sorry. I apologize.
And
It's actually here as item 5, interim executive director's report.
okay,
No, I'm sorry. I'm going back to November 29th. There's so much that's attached.
yeah, you're like me. You're not reading minutes from the old meeting.
I'm reading it. All right, so no, what I would like to see is that after the consent agenda, or when it usually happens, that we just get an update from Patty. And, in case anything has happened, maybe not much, but maybe quite a bit. So it would be good, I think, just to put that in there, even if it's just a
It's good to
placeholder.
have it on the agenda as even if, right. Okay, so if you could include that on the agenda, that would be great.
Will do.
Okay, all
Thank you.
right. Does anybody have anything else they think needs to be added to the agenda for next week? Any executive committee member, or Patty, or Pavo, or Jeff?
Charles,
Go ahead.
we had talked about some compensation for Patty. Has that ever come up on our regular agenda?
Well, we had a little bit of a discussion in closed session, and I brought it up last time as a possible item. I'm more than willing to put it on there for discussion. Is it we had some brief discussion with Jeff regarding the kind of the limitations on retroactive compensation increases and such. But I'm willing to put it on there. But I mean, Jeff, is that something that should take place in closed session, or is it something can take place in open session, or?
It could be handled either way,
Okay.
or both.
I just thought that was something we discussed, and then it seems to have disappeared. So yeah, I just wanted to bring it back and see if you wanted to follow up on it.
It was discussed in the closed session, and it wasn't a consensus. And then I brought it up. I'm not sure what forum I brought it up again in. I think it was in our executive committee special meeting.
Right.
But we didn't definitively decide to put it on the full board meeting agenda, which is where, of course, it would ultimately have to be approved. So I'm more than willing to put it on the full board
Yep.
meeting, either as an open or closed session item.
Right. What we did was limited to correcting the fact that Patty had been working out of class inadvertently and had no idea that was happening. So we corrected that. So prospective going forward, it seems to me it would take some review before we would make and consultation before we would put it on the board agenda, but maybe on the next
So the question would be,
executive.
would we want to have it as a closed? Okay, would we want to put it on a closed session?
Yeah, either
session?
closed session or the next executive. I think we need to, we're asking Pavo to do a budget analysis and, also look at the organization. So there would be some really good information that would help us make the right decision.
So with that in mind, Charles,
My concern was that because of the limitation on, go ahead, Rob.
let's put some discussion of that on close
Okay, right now,
and see if it wants to go on the following month's agenda.
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
okay, so right now,
President Barbeau, I would suggest that be a closed session before the appointment of, first item on the agenda.
Right.
okay, so, because right now we don't have a closed session scheduled for next week. That would be adding a closed session item, and which is no problem, we can do that, but is that what you want to do, is put it on as a closed session item number? Essentially, we convene the meeting and go straight to closed session?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
You're kind of breaking up. I don't mean to interrupt, but you're kind of freezing and breaking up. And so I think it makes sense to put it put a closed session on the agenda. Would that be number 11 then? Or would that be before regular agenda?
Well, whatever the proper placement is, but we're putting it before the regular.
Right.
Okay,
I believe it'd be in number 5.
I think it would be number 5 and push all the others down one. And you'll have to make the arrangements for the breakout session or however we want to conduct the closed session. I think the breakout sessions worked pretty well
They
for
do.
conducting closed sessions.
yeah,
We didn't seem to lose anybody, and we didn't seem to lose much time migrating between the breakout room and back. So, okay, let's do that. Add that as a closed session next week, item 5. Any other discussion or future agenda items? Anything? Patty, Jeff, Pavo, anybody?
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay,
I don't
all
have
right.
any.
Okay, then I think this is actually turning out to be a very brief meeting. Our first meeting of 2022. And I was reminded by Barbara that we had 30, well, particularly those on the executive committee, we had 30 meetings last year. We'll see if we can do better this year. So thank you all, and we will see you all next week.
Charles, did you want to take public comment?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would like to take public comment regarding next week's agenda.
At this time, if a member of the public wishes to make a comment, you may press the raise hand button found at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on the phone, you may press *9. I have nobody for public comment.
Okay, with that, does anybody have anything else for the good of the order, or shall we adjourn the meeting?
We need a okay. vote,
Okay, I'm
right?
sorry, you're right. We need a motion
Motion.
to approve the full board agenda meet for next week.
so moved.
So was that you, Ms. Marks?
That was Jan.
I'll second, just to include as revised.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Enns,
Yes.
and Mr. Burbo.
Yes.
Motion passes with as revised. Did I cut out? No, okay.
You're there now, Sasha.
Okay, I just said motion passes with the appropriate revisions.
Okay, all right then. I believe we're ready to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you
Okay,
all.
thank you all.